This is Tom Rust for TRSB Sports. Today, delighted to be joined by a professional boxer, Jack Hughes, and the new Southern Area champion. How does that sound, mate?
Sounds great, mate. It's everything I've ever worked for. So yeah, to hear it now, finally after 6 years, it does sound pretty good.
Mate, we first had you on this channel, I think it was in like sort of September, October last year. You was rematching Ricky Little for the Southern Area title. That fell through, a number of times for a number of different reasons. You had an opponent change. That wasn't for the title, but fortunately, you got the result. Then you was fighting Paul Roberts earlier on in the year, and it turned out to be a draw, which really probably didn't do either of you many favors. But now, it's a week ago today, you got your hands on the belt. A lot of hard work went before that, so you must be absolutely delighted.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, man, it literally means everything, because this is everything I ever set out for in boxing. Was to be a champion one day and to win titles. And I know I've won 2 titles now, but the challenge belt, it's not it's not really like an official title that's recognized by the board of control. So when I won that, as much as it meant to me and as much as I considered it a title, there was still people there like, oh, he's not really won anything, he's not really achieved anything. So they'd always try and put a downer on everything I achieved. But with this now, the Southern Area title, no one can say anything. I'm a champion. I'm in the history books forever, and yeah, it means everything.
You did it at an iconic venue as well. But after the first fight with Paul, how difficult was that for you to bounce back? Because I know you put so much effort into getting yourself in a great position to fight, and I know you was cut on the night. But how difficult was that to bounce back after that draw?
Yeah, it's hard, man, because like people they don't see what really goes into boxing. They don't really like see the work, and when you're actually training for a fight and cutting weight and the things you have to do, and the part, not necessarily parties, but the socializing with people that you have to miss out on, the like loved one events and things like that. And after the draw, I think I remember I was in the pub with my friend afterwards, and we were just speaking, and I said to him, I was like, yeah, I was like, this is going to be my last fight. And he was saying, oh, like, why? And I was just saying to him, it's hard, mate. Like, you don't understand the things I have to do and the things I go through, and so on. And then but a couple of weeks passed, and it got into my head. I was like, I just can't leave the sport without the Southern Area title. And training was hard. It was the best worst camp I've ever had, if that makes sense, because it was the best camp I ever had because everything went right. But it was the worst camp I ever had because mentally it just took so much out of me, and I become really angry for a long time in camp. And like, my girlfriend must have hated being around me because I was just like so angry all the time, and I was flipping out over the smallest of things. And I was going to, like, my best friend's kids had a birthday party, and I went there, and I was only there for an hour, and I was like so angry, and I was just staring at the table. I was just there literally looking at the table in anger. And then I just left after an hour, and then and I put myself in like a real bad state of mind for the whole camp. And it was just so it was really hard to just kind of bounce back from everything, like. And people don't see that. And no matter how many times you can explain it to someone and tell people, they just don't really get it unless you've lived it and experienced how hard it is through all the ups and downs in boxing. You'll never really understand.
Yeah, because from speaking to you, so many times over the last sort of 12 months, you're probably the most chilled out character that I've come across. Do you feel like there was maybe part of you that was getting angry because you felt like there was maybe a possibility that you would leave the sport without getting the title?
Yeah, like, I mean, as much as I can tell myself and make myself believe it, there's also obviously always doubt that will come in. to your mind. And I'd always say this to my girlfriend as well. I'd always say, I can't I can't die happy unless I win the Southern Area title. So it was like the thing I wanted more in my life than anything. So there was, I mean, I put so much pressure on myself to achieve it. And I think that's why I was getting so angry, because obviously this was like my third attempt. And you know, if I would have lost it, I don't think I ever would have got another chance again, you know. So I just put mad pressure on myself. And I think that's what led to me being so angry. And as you said, like there was so many times in my head I was just like, yeah, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it, am I? And that again probably led me to become very angry as well.
I think in boxing as well, like unlike other sports, it's such a long time in between before you can put things right. You know, if you play for a football team, you can play again the following week and you can put a wrong right. But with boxing, you know, you have to get over the defeat. You have to go for another camp before you can get in there and right the wrong.
Yeah, you don't understand how long it really feels. Like 8 weeks it's nothing. You know, you say to someone, "Oh, I'm going away in 8 weeks on holiday in 8 weeks," and you know, before you know it, it's there. But with a training camp, it just there's certain times in a training camp where it just feels like an eternity. Like especially the last 2 weeks, you know, because especially the last week is the worst, because that's the time where you know, you have to be so strict with your diet, and you're not training as much because it's much more chilled out. And there'd be times where in the last week it would get to about 4 o'clock, and that would basically be my day done by that point. I would have done my training, I would have eaten the majority of my food, and it would get to 4 o'clock, and I would just pace around the house until bedtime. Basically, I would just be pacing. And then this is what I mean about I was so angry. Like I would try and do something, like I'll try and watch a TV show or go on a game or something to take my mind off of it. But because I knew I was doing it to take my mind off of it, it was winding me up even more. And I was just, when I tell you I was so angry, I was like in a real bad place. Like I was just ready to throw hands with anyone at any point. Like, and as I said, my
Even
poor
at kids'
girlfriend,
parties.
even at kids' parties, mate. Like my poor girlfriend, that like the amount of times I've probably flipped out at her and you know, and give her a hard time for no reason. Like bless her, she really did have a lot to deal with especially in the last week.
As much as you were delighted naturally when you got the decision, was it almost like a massive relief off your shoulders as well? Because you know now that whatever happens, when you pack up and call it a day, you have won the title.
Oh mate, yeah. Like because it was, mate, because I as I've said in so many videos before, like, I was never tipped to achieve anything, and like so many people had so much to say about me. Like when I started off, like even like some of the top coaches in the world would call Barry, who's the head of State of Mind, and tell him things like, you know, Jack should never box and so on. So for a long time, it was like I was carrying like the weight of the world on my shoulders, because I had so many people to prove wrong. And you know, as I said before, like if I didn't win it, you know, I would never have been able to die happy, because I would have proved so many people right, because they would have just been like, yeah, you know, I said this from the start. Jack was never going to be a champion. Jack was never going to go on to achieve this. And it's like everything I did in boxing, whether I won this or not, I still had an amazing career. Like I still did things that people could only ever dream of. But because in the eyes of all these like haters, I never won a title. My career was pretty much meaningless. Like everything I did when I headlined York Hall the first time, they all said, "Oh, yeah, he's headlining York Hall, but it's the worst show that Steve Goodwin's ever put on." And like a lot of it, I just think it was bitterness, because they had never had the opportunity to headline York Hall, but I did, and I was tipped to achieve nothing. then when I won the challenge belt, it was, it's not a real title anyway, so it doesn't really mean anything. But again, I think it was just bitterness because they had never won a title or headlined York Hall, and then so it just become like a certain thing that everything I did, it was always put down upon. So yeah, when I won, it was, as you said, it was just the biggest weight of the world off my shoulders, because it was like kind of like, yeah, what can they just can't say nothing now, so I can die happy.
Yeah, you could see from your celebration of, online after you got the result, you was just obviously over, delighted.
Mhm.
Again, maybe like relief, you got the title. But going back to the first fight, I spoke to a lot of people about you fighting Paul Roberts. You both come on the channel, and there was a lot of people that I spoke to who said that you would probably go in there and win quite comfortably. Do you think there was any part of you that overlooked Paul in the first fight?
Yeah, I think I did. I spoke about this the other day. After the fight, when I got asked that question, I was just like, no, I didn't. I did this, I did that. But when I look back on things, and I looked at his record and how I approached the fight the first time, I think I definitely did overlook him. In my head, I was just like, yeah, I'm so fit, and this guy's record isn't great, that if I just go in there and just rush him and put it on him from the start, that will be enough to get me the title. And kind of like everything that I was told kind of just went out the window, and I just went in there from the first round and tried to like smother him with like a barrage of punches, and it didn't really go the way the fight didn't really go the way I wanted it to, even though, I mean, it's close. I think you could argue it either way, even though in my mind I still did enough to win the first fight. But from the performance to the second one, from the first one, you could see it was just a completely different person in there.
Yeah, I think like you say, mate, there were so many people watching it that night. Everyone had it a different way, but I suppose only really matters what the actual official result is. But what did you
Yeah,
take from the first fight going into the second?
so much, mate. Like because as I said, I had an idea that if I just went in and rushed him, that would be enough. And then Kieran sat me down, and like I never watched. Well, I watched it maybe once to kind of have a look at like what happened in the fight and what I thought of it, to so I can have an honest opinion of the fight myself. But I'll never really sit down and watch it and study it and be like, this and this and that, this happened and that happened and so on. I'll just leave that all to Kieran. And Kieran, watched it, and he told me everything I did right, and he told me everything I did wrong. And like he implemented the game plan from that fight. He has his hands really low. So what you need to do is you need to keep touching and fainting the whole way, because he reacts to everything that you do. So that was obviously from the first round. I was touching him with the jab and I was throwing feints, and in a lot of write-ups online, that was one of the key things that people noticed. And then he was saying that every combination needs to finish with a right hand over the top. And again, if you look on the reviews online, they was complimenting me on my right hands over the top. And he said he has problems when you move to the right. If you move to his left, you're going on his stronger side. If you're going to his right, you're moving on his weaker side. And he just basically drilled this into me from the very, very first moment I come back into camp. And we was just doing the same things like over and over again, to the point where it was almost like so monotonous. Like it was just like, wow, this is kind of boring. But you know, he I just don't think Kieran gets enough credit. He's just like an absolute genius in boxing, and he's been there, done it all himself. And yeah, man, without Kieran, he was like the key to victory. Really, everything he just studied the fight over and over again and implemented everything, and come up with this amazing game plan that got me the title.
What was your mindset going into the rematch?
Mate, it's funny because there's something that I'm gonna be posting soon, which is gonna talk about like basically like everything that happened in the camp, but I'm not gonna go into announce it yet. But my mindset, mate, was so weird. like at the start of the camp, it was good, and then when I told you about like my anger issues and stuff I was having,
Yeah.
mate, it was so weird. I remember I woke up obviously on fight night, and I remember I was lying in bed for ages. I didn't move for like an hour, and I was just there, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna win tonight. Like I'm not gonna win, and again I got I was getting so angry again on fight night, and I was very quiet. Like I'm not really well, I'm quiet around new people, but around the people that I know and love, I'm very loud. But I was very quiet for the whole day, and I just kept running that through my head that I was going to lose. And it was only until really I got to York Hall and I was around Kieran and my team that I kind of started to like literally just come to life a little bit, and my mindset started to change. And then when I was on the pads and so on, I started to feel a bit better about myself. But yeah, on the night, mate, it was just a weird experience. It took me a while to kind of come to life and be myself again, which was so weird because I've never been like that in a fight night. But lo and behold, that mindset ended up me producing one of the best performances of my career, which was very weird.
And how much pressure did you feel going into the rematch? Because again, we know we've spoken about the first fight. A lot of people thought you'd go in there and win comfortably. I know you got the cut, which of course is a massive hindrance to you on the night. And maybe the outcome would have been different. But again, going into the second one, how much pressure did you feel? Because again, you know, a lot of people thought you'd go in there and win. I know you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah, mate. Well, it's so much, man. Like that's what, as I said, that's why I just kept getting so angry because I knew I needed to do it, and I was just putting so much like unnecessary pressure on myself, and I think it's because I don't. If this makes sense, I didn't have a lot to prove, but I did have a lot to prove. Like I didn't have a lot to prove because I was never expected to accomplish anything anyway. So whatever I did in the sport, I could have left with my head held high. But I did have a lot to prove because there were so many people throughout the years of my career that, you know, always put me down and was said I was never going to do anything. So it was just one of them things where it's like, oh, if I don't win this, I would have proven everyone right, and all these people can go on for the rest of their life and say, yeah, I told you so, man. I told you so. He was never going to do it. So it was one of them. It was, yeah, I just put so much unnecessary pressure. It literally put so much pressure on myself for 8 weeks that I was not a happy person for like the last 8 weeks of my life.
I think that just goes to show, though, mate, how much it means to you to actually get that title. Because, like you say, a lot of these people that were probably giving you stick or, you know, maybe said that you weren't going to get anywhere. You know, you put them in a boxing ring, mate, and they probably run a mile. But you know, you're
Yeah,
actually getting up there and doing it. You know, you've done a day in the life for us as well. You know, you spoke about
yeah,
sacrifices earlier. I think you're up at like 4 or 5 in the morning. You do a day's work. You've got like a couple of hour commute to train.
yeah,
So if that's not dedication, I don't know what is.
yeah. Exactly, man. It's another thing that a life of a boxer is so hard, and people will never, as I said before, unless you live it, you'll never understand. It's like in my last two fights, I've been quite lucky to have a sponsor come in for me and, you know, let me train full time. But even training full time is still a hard life. You know, people don't understand. But if I was working, like you just really wouldn't get it. Like my day would be waking up at 4 in the morning, working till it could be 12, which isn't that bad, or it could be 5 in the afternoon, which is a long shift. And then after that, I would literally have to come home, grab my stuff, and run down to the gym, which is a 2 hour journey there, train for an hour, then come back on another 2 hour journey home, and then get dressed and go to the track and run for about half an hour to an hour to then come home and do it, and you know, just repeat the system over and over again. And on top of that, I'd have to diet, and on top of that, I'd have to lose. You know, I lose at 13 kilo in 8 weeks, which, you know, that's a lot
Yeah.
of weight to lose. Like you can see the difference now in my face to when I fought it. I just look like a different person, you know. I look, and people see, when Conor McGregor used to step on the scales at featherweight, like the amount of like stress you put your body through, people will never understand unless you go out there and actually live it yourself. You'll never understand how hard it is.
And how do you reflect on your fight? Obviously, it's been a week.
Yeah, man, I'm really,
before.
yeah, I was so happy with it, because I feel like I shocked a lot of people, because I'm known as a very tough game person that is just kind of just willing to get in there and scrap with anyone. But I don't think a lot of people knew that I could actually box, and that I actually do have a really good jab. And it was only it's funny because I have a really weird like mind. I mean, I think I say that, but I think a lot of people probably know that anyway. But I have a really weird mind. Like, someone, for instance, I use Kieran and Tony, both my coaches, as an example. Like, Kieran can tell me something, and he tell me 100 times, but it just won't register in my mind, him telling me it. But I have a conversation with Tony, and Tony will only need to tell me it once, and it will just snap straight in. And it can be the same thing, like vice versa. Tony can tell me something, and then
yeah.
And Kieran would tell me all the time, like, use your jab. Your jab's lovely. You've got an underrated jab. People don't understand, and like it would just never go in. And it was only until I sparred, because Kieran went on holiday for a week during this camp, and I was training with Tony, and we did like a technical session. I sparred one of his fighters, Tycee Gallagher, and I was just sparring with her, and she's just such a great technical boxer. And I was beating her to the jab, and Tony was like to me, he pulled me aside and was like, Jack, I never knew you could box. Like, I know I've been around you now for a year, but I've never known you to like have such a good jab. And like, you were beating Tyson to the jab, which really shocked me. And it kind of like clicked at that moment. And I was like, yeah, he's right. I do have a good jab. Like, and in my head, I'm like, why has no one ever told me this? But even Kieran's been telling me it for the last 2 years. But and it was at that time where I was like, okay, I need to start trying to box people. And I was for the camp, I was sparring Harry Mullins and another amateur lad called Harvey Smith, and they were both like national champions and won the schoolboys and all that. And there were rounds in sparring when I was out boxing them, and I was shocking their trainers, let alone my own trainers. So, when the first kind of 4 rounds had taken place in my head and a lot of people's heads, I was 4-0 up, and I was boxing him. I was on the back foot, and I was countering him, and I was using my jab, and I was beating him to the jab. And I think a lot of people were shocked, man. They was like, wow, what's going on here? This is not the come forward aggressive Jack that we're used to. And so I was just very happy. I felt like everything went to plan. Like, I felt like when it was a boxing match, I outboxed him. And then I thought when he wanted to get close on the inside, I outfought him, and I was stronger than him. And when I was on the back foot, I was winning. And I thought when I was on the front foot, I was winning. And then I would say by the time the 6th round come, in my mind, I was 5-1 up. And then I got cut again with via a headbutt on my left eye. And then I felt like, I was blind in one eye, I had blood going into my eye. And I felt like that's when he started to come on top of the fight. And then in the 8th round, he hit me with an uppercut. And it was the weirdest experience of my life. I went like half of my eye went black. So I was like, I was half blind in one of my eyes. And then the other part of my vision was just blurred. So I was basically essentially blind in this eye. And then I had blood coming into my left eye, and I could not see a thing. And I remember I went back to the corner. Like, I was actually in proper panic mode at this point. And I went back to the corner, and Tony was doing my cut. And I said, Tony, I said, I can't see out of my right eye. And he was like, why, what's wrong? And I was like, it feels like, I was like, when you've got blood going into your eye, I said, it feels like there's blood in my eye. And because he was in panic mode as well, he thought I was talking about my left eye, which was cut. And he was like, mate, don't worry about it. It's just where the blood's dripping into your eye. And that kind of put my mind at ease, because I was like, oh, if he's not worried, then I don't need to be worried. And but for all we know, there could have been something seriously wrong. But I mean, obviously there wasn't. But yeah, so then I went out and I boxed basically 2 rounds blind, and then it come into the 10th round. Even though I had myself comfortably up at this point, and I think my team did as well. But you never know how other people were seeing it. And I remember I come back, and Kieran and Tony, when I sat down, they said, Jack, I need you to go out there and give me the biggest round of your professional boxing career. And I was like, okay. And I just remember I'll never forget this round for as long as I live. And a lot of people have said this to me as well. I remember getting up and on the 10th round, just before the bell went, and I remember thinking, I feel really good. Like, I don't feel tired at all. I feel like I can just keep going. And I remember I just put everything I had into that last round. And like, I hurt Paul, I think, multiple times in the round. I was landing big right hands, big left hooks. And I remember about halfway through the round, I was just like, where is this bell? Because it just felt like the round went on for an absolute eternity. And it just felt like it was never going to end. But, and then, yeah, man. And then, well, obviously, when all was said and done, I felt like I produced one of the best performances of my career. And not only did I produce one of the best performances of my career, for the last 4 rounds, I was essentially blind and still managed to win and perform.
Well, mate, you can definitely overcome adversity. And just listening to you talk about it, mate, you can see how much it means to you.
Yeah, man. I can say it, I've been saying it the whole time. It just means everything, like as I said to my missus beforehand, I can't die happy without it. And now I really feel like I've achieved everything I've set out for in life. So when my time comes, I feel like I'll be there and be like, yeah, I did everything I wanted to do.
Mate, massive congratulations. But I think a lot of people now want to know what's next.
Yeah, well, there's, as I said earlier in the video, there is something that I will be putting out soon, which I can't talk
you
about.
Can't say that.
Yeah, which I can't say right now.
Okay.
But in the short immediate future, obviously, my next fight is on the 12th of November. There's no opponent yet, like nothing's apart from a fight date, nothing's been scheduled. So that's obviously what's next for me. But by this time next week, my other announcement should be out, and everyone will see. It's going to be it's quite big, and it's going to shock a lot of people. No, well, it'll probably be on my YouTube as well, but it will be on my Insta and so on.
No, sorry, I said you're not fighting a YouTuber.
Oh no, so no YouTube with boxing for me.
No, because I know, from speaking to you before,
Yeah.
I know, of course, again, this means so much to you, but you've touched upon fighting for bigger titles as well. So I'm interested to see, what is next and listening to this announcement.
Yeah, it's going to be big, mate. So yeah, stay tuned.
And since the fight, have you managed to? I know you got away. You went to Scotland. Did you have a nice time?
Yeah, mate, it was lovely. Like, Scotland's one of the, in my opinion, one of the nicest places in the world. It's like just the scenery is beautiful. It's just peaceful, like compared to, because obviously I've always lived in the city where my fiance's family lives. It's more like all country, and like it's just a really chilled out, peaceful environment. And when I go down there, I just feel that peace, like like the whole world's kind of just behind me. And it was just nice to go down to Scotland again, relax, and be with all her nephews that kind of like idolized my career. And they was all taking pictures of the belt, watching the video of the fight, and all that. So yeah, it was just nice to get away, mate.
Yeah, we spoke before we started recording. It's a massive contrast, isn't it? Like you say, 8 weeks of training hard. I know you live in like London, so a busy city.
Yeah.
Being quite an angry person for a while, making so many sacrifices to go away to somewhere quite remote. It's just a massive contrast to what you've been through recently.
Yeah, mate. It's such a different life. As you literally just said, it's such a different life to doing from going from 8 weeks to that, and then going from a week away like that. It kind of almost makes you feel like you never want to go back to the 8 weeks of hard work and so on. But it's only literally I think it's like 14 weeks or something till the 12th of November. So give it give it 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be back in training again.
I think is as well, mate, you've got momentum now, so I suppose naturally
Yeah,
nice to have some time off, but you want to build on that.
yeah, of course.
But mate, just before I let you go, I just want to get your opinion on someone that you're quite a big fan of. Conor Ben has been linked with fighting Chris Eubank, and
Yeah.
and it's, you know, I was listening to an interview the other day. It may happen, it might not, but I just wanted to get your opinion on that. If it happens, how you see it going.
Yeah, man, it's one of them fights that kind of really annoy me, because I just don't think that fight will ever happen. And I just think it's all like, I feel like boxing nowadays, it's just a really weird sport. And like, I don't actually watch boxing much anymore, because I just feel like there's just so much kind of just stupid stuff that happens all the time. Like, they kind of they're more likely to tease you with an idea of something
Yeah,
than for like big fights that actually happen nowadays. And I feel like we get teased with all these big fights now, for instance, Fury and Joshua, and it's probably never going to happen. But on shows, they're put out like fights now where it's like 80% in the home fighter's favor that's going to win, and then 20% on the away fighter. Like, there's very rarely ever 50-50 fights that people actually really want to get excited about nowadays. And I just feel like this fight, it's just one of them stupid fights that's got nostalgia to it because of their dads, and they're gonna tease us with it, even though I just think it's kind of a stupid fight anyway because of the weight difference and so on. But I just feel like they're gonna tease us with it, and they let it build up for however long, and then how probably like a couple weeks beforehand, one of them will pull out with an injury, and that fight's never going to happen. And so you heard it here first. I don't think that fight's ever going to happen. But if it does happen, again, this is as much as I always say this, but I seem to slag him off a lot. This is no disrespect to Conor Ben, but I just can't see him winning that fight, because even though there's like they're getting Eubank to come down, and there's like a rehydration clause and so on and so forth, I just think Eubank's way too big for him. I think in that sense as well, I do think it's a silly fight. I just think Conor Ben's way too small to get in a ring with Chris Eubank. So I think if it does happen, I think Chris Eubank batters him, to be honest.
I don't know if you would agree, but I still don't, like, personally, think that we've seen the best of Eubank, or we don't really know how good he is, even though I think he's like 33, 34. He's had for me, he's had like a strange career. He went for a large part of it without really a coach. And now he's being coached. I don't know. I just want to see him in huge fights. I know he beat Liam Williams earlier in the year, but it turned out to be a comfortable night for him. But like you say, mate, only time will tell. But mate, is there anything you'd like to finish up on?
That's it, really, man. I just want to obviously thank everyone that supported me, whether it was just getting a ticket off me and coming to support me that way, or if you supported me as a sponsor. My main sponsors were Hilton Grove, my friend Guy, who sponsored me for the whole fight, that let me take it off and train full time as a boxer. Forrestal and Son Rods, who's become a friend as well as a sponsor now, and on top of him sponsoring me, he sells tickets, and on top of that, like, I've grown to have a relationship with his little boy now, who like idolizes me, and my other sponsor Steve, who he used to basically live with me. He used to work with my stepdad, and when he was coming through, built like working on himself. Now he's got a company that does really well and successful, and he sponsors me. So all these people have just been amazing, and obviously my missus for putting up with me. Oh, I missed one of my sponsors, Justin, who also sponsors Maxi Hughes, who jumped on board, and even in the short time we've known each other, has become like a friend. And yeah, sorry, I cut Terry's one off short. Yeah, but my missus had to put up with me for all my angry spells and all the bullshit that I put her through. As she said to me when we was driving home from Scotland, I don't have a fan base. I have an ever-growing family that's continuing to grow, and it just means a lot to me that to everyone that supported me, and I just look forward to the family that's going to keep on growing.
Well, I'm glad to hear, mate. I know it's a massive, important part of it, and it's nice to see that you're, you know, you're back calm again as well.
Yeah, back to being calm and peaceful. I think my missus is starting to love me again now.
Well, listen, mate, a massive congratulations again. I'm very pleased for you. You know, you're the first person we ever had on the channel, so it's glad to catch up with you again, being a champ, and we look forward to hearing about your announcement next week.
Thanks, bro.
All right, take care, Jack.
Mate, bye.
All right.